through the week, we were talking about the Kihon and how important Kihon are and what exactly Kihon is. And my theory is that even though we recognize the 30 basic techniques as Kihon, there are certain footwork patterns which form a part of Kihon. There are certain movement patterns which form a part of Kihon. So my theory is that Kihon is any training that you do that is not the actual event. We're going to go through the 30 basic techniques, a few at a time. So today we're just going to cover 3 in depth. And then at the end, if we have time, I was just going to show you a really interesting grappling move as well. Like Masayama said, if you get taken to the ground by a wrestler or a judo player or a grappler and you don't know what to do, you're in big, big trouble. It was interesting. There was a time where I think it was Lou Thez, the great wrestler Lou Thez, was going to have a fight with Rocky Marciano. So the world champion boxer and the world champion wrestler were going to tee off this was in, I'm guessing, about 1951, 52. They were going to tee off in a mixed martial arts fight. This was going to be a fight between Lou Thez, who was one of Jean Lavelle's teachers, and Rocky Marciano. Now, interestingly, at the time, Masoyama was in America doing fights, competing against people under the name of Mas Togo. He traveled as one of the Togo brothers. And there was an interview in Sports Illustrated magazine. In that interview, Masoyama, interviewed as Mas Togo, points out that he said, Rocky Marciano is one of the greatest fighters of our generation, and he hits as hard as anyone. But I don't think Rocky Marciano, according to Masayama, realizes what can happen to him if Lou Thez gets a hold of him. So he said, I think, and he actually put his money on, he was asked who he thought would win. And in his mind, he said, well, he thinks Lou Thez will win. That's the wrestler over the boxer. So the point is, if you don't understand the importance of range 4 and 5, the stand-up grapple and the ground range, then you will come undone. And in my dojo, just for what it's worth, I encourage the black belts, if they want to get that black belt, to work towards getting at least a blue belt in BJJ. Blue belt in BJJ is a good level. So the first 3 techniques I'm going to look at are Chudan-Zuki, Jodan-Zuki, and Aguchi, and I think it's really important. But the first thing we have to learn is how do you make a fist. It's really important. Your students should know it off the top of their head by rote. How do I make a fist? I start from the little finger. I close with the thumb, and I make sure my wrist is straight. Now, that straight wrist thing is interesting because from my experience, if your wrist is perfectly straight, your hand will tip under really immense pressure when you're really hitting it hard. So from my experience, when I was hitting the makiwara really, really hard, if my wrist was exactly straight, I'm holding in front of my gi so you can see it against the white. If my wrist was exactly straight, I found that it would buckle like that. So what I would do is I would actually pick it up fractionally, not like this, but go from exactly straight, just fractionally, like that. And I found just having it up like that, with the force coming down, the force would go to the bottom of the knuckle rather than the top. If it goes to the top of the knuckle, the hand would tip over. But if your hand is slightly up, not that much even, that's too much, slightly up, then it would go to the middle or bottom of the knuckle and the hand wouldn't tip over. Quite interesting. Yeah. Okay, so you have to understand how to make a fist first. Start with a little finger, close with the thumb, wrist is relatively straight. You want your hand to go white. Why is it going white? Is because when you squeeze it properly, you're squeezing all the blood out. And if you squeeze all the blood out, there's a famous karate master in Japan, part of the late master Nakamura Hideo. He was the head of an organization called Kendo Kai. Not kendo as in sword, but kendo as in the fist way. And he was quite phenomenal. And he had a saying, Kitae nukareta kobushi wa sono shunkan tekko ni naru. So the trained fist becomes like steel in the instant of impact. So the kitae nukareta kobushi. So the trained fist wa sono shunkan, in the instant, becomes steel. Okay, and if it's going to be like that, you have to make sure that nothing moves in your hand. Okay, so let's look at this. I'll get Mitch to stand over there in Sunshin. We'll stand right back. This will be difficult to get in. We don't need to stand right back other than when we take Sunshin stance. Okay, so the important thing to remember in Sunshin is what we see a lot when we travel is the hands come out and they go here. So we go yoid, come like that, and the hands go out here. That's wrong. You want to make sure that the body, the arms never leave the width of your body. So when my knee comes together for Sunshin, my elbows come together. They're like that. It's like I'm being bashful. Oh, don't. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Okay, I'm here. When I bring my knee together, my elbows come together. When my foot goes out, my posture straightens. My hands go so that the outside of the shoulder is in line with the inside of the hand. The outside of the lat is in line with the inside of the elbow. I don't want to come out here so there's space in between. And I don't want to be so narrow so that my hands are narrower than my shoulders. I'm here. Hands come down, knee comes in, and I go out. And I use the contraction of the scapula to make sure that my hands are in. The height of the wrist is shoulder height, not fingertips. And there's a very simple reason for that, in my theory anyway, is that if I have my knuckle in line with the shoulder and I open my hands are too low. My hands aren't high enough. But if I have my wrist at shoulder height, now when I open my hands are at the correct height. So a good fighting stance, your wrist is the height of the shoulder. So that's a good way to measure why I go from there. Okay? Now I'm going to move forward. Now that we've got the stance correct, we're going to move forward so that you can see more clearly the actual technique. Okay? So we go from this position, Chudan-Zuki, both hands out, right hand back. Okay. The most important thing to remember is to relax the shoulder and close the armpit. So you don't want to place the hand and punch. This sort of thing. Kyokushin has a reputation for terrible technique based on some really poor basics. So the first thing we want to work on is keep our head still like it's on the top of a stick, so that when we turn our shoulders, it's kind of deceptive. If I turn my shoulder and my head stays with it, well, then my head turns too. So that when I throw the punch, my head starts to turn, okay? But the correct way that I want to work on is I keep my head still so that even when I turn my shoulders, my head remains facing the front. See that? So you can practice that by doing this sort of thing and get used. And you think about it, even though my head's staying still, in actual fact, it's not, because now if I keep my head there and turn my shoulders back, I've actually turned my head. But my head is staying in dominant head position. Dominant head position means it's exactly in line with my opponent's spine, so that if he moves slightly, I make an adjustment. And at no stage, if he moves slightly, do I just turn my head? That's the error that we get used to, turning our head incorrectly. I've turned my head. Now he has dominance and I don't, because my dominant position is still over there. But I've turned my head. In my head, I'm tricking myself. In my mind, I'm tricking myself. I think I still have him in full vision. And I may, but I don't have him in correct default position. So It's important all the time that doesn't matter where we are, we're constantly making sure that our head is always in dominant position against our opponent. Now, you think about that when we do Kihon. When I do the Kihon now, I want to be able to turn my shoulders with relaxation, but I don't want my head to turn with it. Okay? I want my head to stay exactly to the front. The next thing I need to do is to remember to keep my shoulders relaxed and my armpits closed. It's also said that 90% of all problems can be related to excessive tension in the shoulders. This sort of thing. You don't even realize you're doing it. I've been training for 40 years. You can't tell me I'm doing it wrong. And you're doing this sort of thing, right? Is that good?
That's great.
Okay. I need to go from that to that. Relax the shoulders. In Japanese, waki o shimete. Waki is the armpit area. Waki o shimeru. I keep my armpits down. Even when I'm sparring, I don't want to have my hands in correct position, but my waki up. And you see this is a lot. You say to guys, let's take a photo, shape up, and they go, yeah, and their arms are up. Okay, because of the excessive tension in the shoulders. Relax the shoulders. So good. I get my students to do this. Hang the arms down, and then bring the hands up. I don't bring the elbows up. I bring the hands up. So the hands should be under, the elbow should be under the hands. So it's not about having the hands in the right position. I can have my hands in the right position. Look, I'll keep my hands in exactly the same position, but my elbows are out of position. Okay, it's about having the elbows in the correct position and the hands up. Once your elbows in the correct position, you bring your hands up, they're automatically correct. Okay, so that habit comes from relaxation in the shoulders when you do Kihon. Okay, so I'll get
just a comment on that too, Shihan, a question I should say, is when the elbows are in that position too, it transfers to what you're saying before, range 4 and 5, in my experience, much better than here.
Yes.
Because you're in every single bit of trouble
yes.
here versus here. So the transfer of here through all the ranges, from my limited experience, seems to be enormous.
Good point, because the number one rule in any grappling is protect the underhooks. It's also used to call it superior airspace or air superiority. He used an Air Force term, dominant air superiority. Okay, that means you're dominating this area and this area here. If I can dominate that area on my partner, well, then I have control. So to prevent that, you watch wrestlers, they're like T-Rex arms. They're here like this. They never open their arms. And if you're grappling with someone and you just get into this habit alone of keeping your arms closed, it always makes it hard if he goes for an underhook there. But
you take me there.
Yeah, it gives him, because his action of reaching out for the underhook, it opens his armpit. So you take it. But so that armpit thing is really, really vital. Okay, so here we are, 2 hands out, right hand back. I'm aiming at one point, right on the solar plexus. Your vision, your visualization is someone your own size, your own strength, your own height. Okay, and I'm aiming straight at their solar plexus. When the hand comes out, it stays upside down all the way right until the end. That will help to stop you. Look what happens if I turn my hand early. Look at the armpit opens. You see guys do this all the time. Relax the shoulders and the arm. Listen. I used to say it's like wiping mud off your arm. There. You want to do that. So 1, 2, look, the hand goes out. Relax, in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ich, ni, san, shi. The next thing is I don't place my hand on my body. You'll hear that a lot. Guys, you'll hear them, they're doing basics, you're going.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Maybe it'll make it hope if you'll toughen up your ribs. But the point is it's wrong, because what you're doing is you're retracting your elbow. So one thing we do in training is we might do 20 normal, and then the next 10 we'll do as though in our imagination we're hitting someone behind with an elbow. Not big difference between that and that. Okay, you get that retracting elbow there. Okay, some styles have the hand down here. Salsai's argument was, yeah, they had their hand here, but when they go to throw a punch, the hand comes up anyway. You see guys, they fight low, the hand comes up and shoots out. Okay, so Salsai said, well, bring the hand up anyway and do it from there. 1, there. The hand is in solar plexus, right, aiming the solar plexus. 2, 3. You twist right at the end. Look, halfway out, this hand's still upside down, this hand's halfway. There, okay? Like that. Jodan is exactly the same. Jodan aims just at the Jodan, the face. So it can be, you can aim at the chin, you can aim at the jinchu or the point just above the lip. Very effective to hit someone there. These are some of the things that you don't get when you put gloves on. See, glove fighting, there's no doubt about it that the best punchers in the world are boxers and things like that, because they're the best punchers with gloves on. But you look at the images of the old bare fist boxing days, they weren't fighting like boxers, they were fighting like karate guys. They're out here because they couldn't afford to catch the punch there, they still get knocked out. They had to catch the punch there like that, and the old karate, the old bare fist boxers, they look like karate fighters. You go up online, have a look at bare fist boxing fighting, and they're here like this, or like, you know, their hands aren't close. Okay, so we're aiming for the chin, the jinchu just below there, the nose, between the above the eyebrows. Very good, because it cuts. You just step back and wait for the blood to run in their eyes, and trust me, the saltiness of the blood is something you can't ignore. Okay, hit on the cheekbone there. It causes the eye to swell. Even hitting in the throat, the carotid sinus, all these points are very good in bare fist. In glove fighting, pretty well you just hit the face. You know, you aim for the nose, the jaw, and so on. But the big glove changes everything. It changes your targeting in particular. Okay, so we go from middle punch, we come up to the jaw. Exactly the same technique. Another thing that's very important is you'll see some guys, when they throw the punch, they kind of see my knuckle, they kind of stab that foreknuckle in. And it kind of looks very cool. You know, it's like they do this. It becomes a habit. But Salsai was adamant that it's like you have mercury on the back of your hand and you don't want that mercury to drip off. The hand is perfectly horizontal. You don't stop it halfway. You don't point the knuckle in or anything like that. None of that works in reality. In reality is you want the wrist to be strong, which means you want the hand to turn over exactly straight. In Kihon, the hand has to be, I'm going in my own image, that punch is now in line with my chin, but from the camera's perspective, it's not. So that's why I'm coming down here like that and aiming for my own chin. But if you look at it from the side, yeah, come in, Mitch. I have to make sure that I'm aiming in line with my own chin. There, like that. So now if I turn, you see how it looks like I'm going high. So that's why it's very deceptive with the camera. So the Jodan-Zuki is exactly the same. I retract the elbow. From the front, when you retract the elbow, you can't see the elbow. Salsai used to say, waki o shimete, hiji o hiku, waki o shimete. Okay, close the armpit, and you shouldn't see the elbow from the front. I shouldn't be like this, so I can see the elbow. See that? When I use the contraction and rotation of the spine and rip the elbow back in with the contraction of the shoulders, the elbow disappears from the vision at the front. Okay, that's the Jodan-Zuki. The third one is really important, and this is mainly why I wanted to do the basics, because the Aguchi is probably the one that is most abused around the world, because it's our natural feeling that we want to have our hands up. So we're standing here and we're doing the Aguchi like that. But the reality is that develops a bad habit because how square my body is. So remember, I want to fight with a wedge in my body there, like that. I don't want to have my body too square. There's times for it, of course. But generally speaking, you want to reduce your target area, pull your elbows together by, if you can see from the top, my shoulders angle forward there, like that. Okay? So when you think of it in those terms, let's look at the Aguchi. The Aguchi is not here. It's there. And if you doubt me, go to Soul Size Books and look up Aguchi in some of the old books. And it's wide here. Why? Because now, if I take my body and turn it to a normal fighting stance and then bring this hand here, now I'm in a normal fighting stance. So this Aguchi position is exactly how it should be. So I go from there to there. Now I'm in normal fighting stance. Okay, and this punch comes across the body. And so I used to say, when you throw the punch, it comes from the ground, through the body, through the waki, through the lat, into the elbow. And what does the lat do? Well, what does the lat do, Mitch?
Well, it's just the prostate pulls down.
It pulls down. So you're not going to use the lat by punching out.
No.
You're going to use the lat by this sort of motion across the body. Is that fair to say? Yeah, like that. Okay, so Aguchi is done wide. Once again, you have the head still, but you have the rotation around the head. Okay, turning like that. And then when I throw the punch, it comes off circle and point and shoots straight out to the chin. Punch, straight out to the chin. So when I practice Aguchi, this is the motion. The hiki there is the hiki shoulder and hiki elbow. There like that. One. Not here. And just shooting the hands out. There's a time and place for everything, but that's not now. Okay? I'm not doing this. I'm here and I'm rotating the spine, and it also talks about circle and point. You're turning that circle and the punch comes off it. There like that. 1, 2. From here, rotate the shoulder, and the hand comes off and back. There. Wide. There. One way that we practice this in the dojo when we're developing the Aguchi properly for beginners is, remember, the weight's on the right for the right hand, weight's on the left for the left hand. So when I throw the Aguchi, I put my weight slightly on my right foot. Then I take my time. When I throw the left, put my weight on the left foot. Then I turn around, and now I'm going to punch to the side. So now I punch there, like that. You could watch my feet. I'm in Sunshin, but I'm going to do the Aguchi. And I rotate there. I throw it there like that, and that helps me develop weight on the right foot there and then back. And when I throw the left, my weight stays on the left foot. See, like that? That's a really good drill to do with your students to develop the habit of getting the correct weight in the feet. Okay, so the Aguchi, the hands are wide. I rotate there, and then I practice the lateral Aguchi. Roll there like that, with the emphasis being on the correct weight, because if it's not, I'll do that every time, and I'll just try to keep up with the count. We're going to do 1,000 of these today, and 999 of them are poor. You're better off doing 20 really good quality ones that you take your time with. Okay, I'm right here. Boom. And then I'm going to throw it and make sure my weight is on the correct leg. Back, 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 like that. So Aguchi, when you practice it in Kihon, it's the swinging around the spine there, and you shoot it off the circle and point. That's very, very important. And then the difference between then, so you have Chudan-Zuki, Chudan-Zuki, Jodan-Zuki, but Aguchi, Uraken, Gamme Uchi, Sayuchi. Uchi is a strike. Ski is a punch. So also I used to say, when you punch, you grip your spirit in your hand, you penetrate through and snap the spine and rip the spine out. That was his mindset when he'd throw a punch.
Wow.
Yeah, very interesting. So the punch is penetrating, but an uchi or a strike is explosive. Now there's a thing called, what is it? Time on target. Yes, we call it time on target. It's called impulse. I'm sure if you looked it up, you could find some physics theory about the concept of impulse. But in a nutshell, for karate, impulse is time on target. Now, the analogy I use is someone falling out of a 10-story building in a fire, okay? And they go from 10 stories, they go from 0 to terminal velocity, and they hit the footpath, and it's a bloody mess. Now, it's not the terminal velocity that killed them. It's the sudden stop at the end. So what happened was they went from terminal velocity to 0 in minimal time. Now, you take the same person, same window, same terminal velocity, but if they land on a 2-story fireman's balloon, they're still going from terminal velocity to 0. They just do it over a longer period of time. So therefore, it slows them down and the impact is less. Well, that analogy is very important when you're hitting. This is why sometimes guys that don't try and hit hard all the time, but just snap, and this impulse, this explosiveness, particularly on the jaw, you know, the famous story of Masoyama's last street fight. He hit the guy was 25 years younger than him. He hit him with an uppercut, and it was an explosive uppercut, and the guy's jaw was shattered in 5 or 6 different places. Now, if he tried to punch through like that, it wouldn't have happened. What did the damage was the impulse, the minimal time on target. Well, then the difference between an uchi and a punch is the time on target. Now, this is where you can lose track of that when you train with gloves. Because when you train with gloves, by the nature of the gloves, you increase the time on target, because when you hit, you get this sponging. That's why you wear them. It's safer. Okay? So if you were to do a back fist with a 12 or 14 ounce glove on, it wouldn't have anywhere near the effect. Okay? But the reason back fists are explosive, the reason all these elbows are very explosive is because they have minimal time on target. And that's really, really important to recognize when you're practicing your basics. You're practicing the Aguchi. It's not about driving it through as hard as you can. There's nothing wrong with that. When you're actually fighting with someone, you have good technique, and then you drive it through hard, you can, it'll be very effective. But when you're practicing your Kihon, what you need to make sure you do is it's snappiness. It's that speed and snappiness. You want to tell yourself that you're putting your hand in and out of a 3,000 degree furnace, and you don't want to burn yourself, so it's got to go as sharp as you can. And that's why refinement of technique over time is very important, because a refined technique allows you to move quicker. Why is that?
Well, because you're more efficient, and if your nervous system is engaged, you're firing it in training in a specific way consistently, so that your body will become efficient at firing the neurons and muscles in that manner, and you're rehearsing what you want. So that's why, and you just get more and more efficient at it over time. It's exactly what you said before. If you're going to do 1,000 Aguchi, for example, but 999 of them are not so good, well, then you're rehearsing what you don't want.
Yes, you have to remember that practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. You will react how you train. If you do 900 really bad ones, all you're doing is developing a bad habit. Okay, so you need to be very on point, and you need a training partner who works with you and is very observant. That's why using a camera when you're training, it would shock you sometimes. Put a camera on yourself and video yourself doing basics, and then go back and look at that video. You'd be amazed at how your body is doing things you don't realize it is. Okay, from everything from opening the hands, every time you punch, to swaying, to dropping your hand, all these things that you're not even conscious you're doing, but because of your habitual training habits, you're doing it anyway. Okay, so there's the middle punch, the upper punch, and Aguchi. Chudan-Zuki, Jodan-Zuki, Aguchi, the first 3 punches that you do in basics. Over the next few weeks, we're going to cover all the basics. Next week, we're going to cover next week. Yeah, I should be here. Oh, maybe. I'm not too sure. I get back from Japan. But we're going to cover the basics. We'll try and do all the uraken. Okay? So there's that's a view of the first techniques in the 30 basics of Kyokushin. So if you've got any questions or comments, please put them. Remember, guys, we're actually starting to build our viewer base too. We're nearly at 2 million. We just need 1,997,600 more, and we'll hit 2 million.
Couple of weeks.
Yeah, so keep at it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. There's always more people watch it than is actually subscribed to it. So make sure you hit the subscribe button and pass the word around to everyone. Thanks. We were going to do the grappling technique. We might keep that for next week, I think, because we've hit 30 minutes. Oh, Nitish, all the way from Mauritius. Thanks for Gaza. Us. Nice to see your name there. Daniel. Daniel is always a perennial presence, and we appreciate it very much. So we've got Western Australia. We have Nepal. We have Canada, New Zealand, all over Australia, Mauritius. Thanks for coming, guys. Us and Frederick from Sweden. Okay, thanks, guys. Look, I hope you get something out of it. Remember, the first key to basics is knowing how to make a fist, and you need to get your students close with the little finger. Start with the little finger, close with the thumb. You have to wrap the thumb tight. Make sure you squeeze all the blood out of your hand. Squeeze it tight. That's the beginning. The next most important thing is keep the head still. Even as I turn my shoulders, I want my head to stay exactly still. Okay? Then when I turn my shoulders, I need to relax the armpits. Keep the armpits closed, relax the shoulders so that the elbows stay down. It's a really important principle in all the ranges, like Mitch said too. Good wrestlers, they keep their armpits closed. Another important thing is that by relaxing your shoulder, your elbows go heavy. And the principle of a heavy elbow in grappling is always, it's one thing to have a collar tie. It's another thing to have a collar tie with a heavy elbow. I think that's very important. Next week, we're going to do the uraken. I love uraken. Uraken adjust the bomb, especially in self-defense, especially in no fist fighting. They're explosive because of that principle of impulse, time on target. The shorter you can make the time on target, the more explosive it becomes. Okay, it's a form of kinetic energy, if you like. Thanks, guys. Us 9 hours ahead. Thank you, Hubert. I hope that's how I pronounce it correctly. And Raj Kumar, thank you, guys. Mitch, as always, appreciate your help.
You.
And look forward to seeing you next week. Us.